So if you didn't know that, well, that's probably your problem, right? Well, it is your problem legally. Ethically, it's a whole different discussion. Other devices like the iPad, the one I love about the iPad, orient the device in portrait mode with the home button at the bottom of the display, blah, 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 blah. Of course we all do that, right? Well, it gets better. Samsung, same thing. Now Samsung, they don't have 5 layers of settings. They hide it on page 164 of the user manual. Now I'm sure all of you who have a Samsung phone have read every single page of the user manual, right? Of course you have. But legally, Samsung and the executives of Samsung are protected, right? Okay, my other favorite, baby monitors. I have 2 grandchildren now. I'm spending a lot more time worrying about baby monitors than I did over the last 2 decades of my life. Well, the baby monitor is saying keep it 8 inches or 20 centimeters from the baby. How many of us know that? Of course nobody does, right? So yes, you are being warned, but nobody's telling you because nobody's actually reading that material. So what's happening then? So now what's the reality of the world is that, as I said, most warnings are being buried. So the CBC Marketplace did a program back in a couple years ago, and they did a survey as part of the program. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you've seen it, or see it again. If you haven't, CBC Marketplace, just type in the secret inside your cell phone. It has over 2.7 million views. It's one of the highest viewed programs they've ever done. They did a study, found 81% of Canadians didn't see the message. So the fact that you didn't see it, there's 81% of the Canadians who've seen it. I'm curious at how the 19% found it. Were they just kind of randomly going through settings about general RF exposure, they found it? I don't know how they knew. 67% of Canadians said that they broke the rules and they hold the phone directly against either their head, stick it in their bra, put it in their jacket pocket, or put it in their pants pocket, right? And all three, and so what the Marketplace program did was they took the phones to the manufacturers who actually measured them on behalf of the industry. They did them at those distances, and of course they passed safety code 6. Then they said, okay, hold it right up against the machine, hold the phone against the machine. And they were 3 to 4 times higher levels than safety code 6 allowed for. So not only did they break it, they broke it by 3 or 4 times. In France, they found that 90% of the 450 phones that they tested actually exceeded the guidelines on a worldwide basis. Now, in the SARS, it ranged from 10 to 25% over the safety limits. So let me go back. I want to make a point again, so it's very clear at the bottom. The industry states, my industry states, and the words are very carefully written, we meet federal guidelines if used correctly. So if you hold that phone against your body, you've broken the rules, and it's too bad that you're exposing yourself above safety code 6 guidelines. So what's going on around the world? So just a subset of some of the countries that are doing, so then this is legislation that's passed. So that's gone through Parliament, or their equivalent of Parliament, and gone through and gotten approval of the Prime Minister or President if it's appropriate. My 2 favorite countries, China and Russia, not exactly known for concern for their citizens. Their safety guidelines are 100 times safer than Canada's. You have countries like India, 1 billion people, so huge infrastructure. Do not have the money. When we were there, they didn't have the money to run the copper wires throughout to get the people phones, so they went right to the wireless technology, which is a lot more cost effective. Their guidelines are the mandated 90% of the levels that we have in North America. You look at Taiwan, very, very aggressive about protecting children and infants. Taiwan has a huge percentage of their GDP building semiconductors that are feeding my technology industry, yet they're very aggressive on this. And I find that France is probably one of the more aggressive countries, particularly about Wi-Fi in schools. They're very, very, and these are legislative things where you cannot have any Wi-Fi devices in the equivalent of kindergarten. Grade school level, they limit how many hours. It cannot be in the general play areas, because as Dr. Havas has pointed out, when you're exposed to Wi-Fi or RF radiation and you exercise, we're starting to see children have heart attacks in schools. So France is on that issue. You cannot advertise a cell phone in France unless you talk about speaker mode and using earbuds as part of the legislation. In Belgium, it is illegal to market cell phones to children under 14 years of age. So these are countries that are taking very strong measures to protect their citizens against wireless radiation. So what's happening in 5G? In June of this year, the Oregon Senate directed their health authority to review peer-reviewed published research and come back and talk about the exposure to microwave radiation, particularly children in schools, and come back with the results no later than a year this following January. I had the opportunity to go down to New Hampshire and talk to the House of Representatives, and the state representative invited us in, and we spoke to the technology committee. And they ended up passing the bill. The committee passed it through out of their sector, went to the House, it got passed in the House, and went to the Senate, was passed in the Senate. And this bill establishes a commission to study the environmental and health effects of 5G technology before anything is done in the state of New Hampshire. So I view that as and so here's some individuals who decided that this is significant enough that they're going to pass and put their name on the bill to say we want this stopped until it's evaluated. And that commission is made up of industry, scientists. There's actually Canadian Dr. Wu out of McGill who's on that committee, state representatives, representative from the Senate. So a full mix of trying to represent the population of New Hampshire. We said, okay, let's really study this. Italy, there are 50 municipalities that have halted deployment of 5G. In Austria, the parliament has commissioned a study on the effects. Switzerland is going to monitor radiation levels of 5G and monitor and see how it affects them. Brussels has said we're not going to talk about 5G deployment due to radiation concerns. In fact, the minister who sponsored that bill said, I will not let the citizens of Brussels be a human experiment on 5G. I think Dr. Havas was talking to you directly. Dr. Havas mentioned very briefly, there's a paper by Dr. Shockley out of University of Colorado, and he challenges the complete business case. He says, first of all, wireless networks are 100 times slower than wired networks. Right? They're unreliable. They're less reliable. They're more vulnerable to security and privacy concerns. They consume significant amounts more energy than a wired system. They can leave people vulnerable in the event of a power failure. And they increase the points of vulnerability thousands of times. In other words, if you've got these billions of devices that are all interconnected, any one of those can be hacked. And once you've hacked into the one device, you've actually got access to most of the rest of the network. And you can significantly increase not only the amount of data from a corporate espionage standpoint, but personal data that's out there and being available. I mean, it almost seems that every other week there's some organization that is hacked where our private information is being made available. And a lot of that is because of the holes that are still in the networks from a wireless standpoint. So what's my industry strategy? So first thing they say is, we say, as I said before, we meet federal guidelines that use correctly. If you don't use it correctly, that's your problem, right? We bury the warnings inside the cell phones and device being monitored, so legally we're okay. The other thing I learned in my career, that any action that is going to slow the deployment of technology, we just fight that tooth and nail. So anything that's going to be a little blip in the road of people using more and more technology, finding more and more uses for it, we just hate that with a passion. We'll do anything we can to prevent that from happening. What they're doing more aggressively in the U.S. is they're arranging preemptive legislation and going state by state by state and getting legislation passed at the state legislative level that basically takes away all the powers from the state to get in the way of it. Well, in Canada, we've got that called Safety Code 6, and I said, or the new industry Canada, which is actually doing that at the federal level. And, we hear reports from councillors in cities saying, well, we don't have any rights here locally. Well, that's not true. We'll talk about that in a minute. I use the word constipated. It's a bit of a harsh word. It's not a technical term. But clearly the strategies, for every study that comes out, my industry will pay scientists to come out with 6, 8, or 10 studies that either show there's no harm or confuse the issue. So the whole point of the whole strategy is to constipate the process so the government can't make decisions quickly. Now, that doesn't take much to do, because in my years of experience in voting, it's not like the government is running ahead at 100 miles an hour making decisions. So it doesn't take much of a cloud of doubt to stop the whole process from moving forward. So not only do you stop the legislative process and constipate that, but you actually get in and you muck up the science. And as Dr. Sears talked about, not only did Dr. Moore point out that they don't have the skills, and they don't even have the proper software in Health Canada to evaluate the thousands of studies that show that there's harm. They don't even have the piece of software that they need to start that process. I just find that incredible. Now I'm prejudiced, I'm in the software business, but man, that's like saying I'm going to dig a trench and I don't have a shovel. Right? But trust me, this is going to be the best trench you ever saw. Right? And I don't know how we're going to do it, maybe by hand. And they continue to take advantage. The process we have today, I find incredible. What we do is we launch new technology, we get the payment for it right away, and then others have to worry about not only tracking and monitoring the harm, but dealing with the harm. So we talk about the huge increase in budget of healthcare costs, right? A big piece of that is coming from the increase in cancer. Not all cancer is caused by RF radiation, but there is a certain amount of it that is. So we are paying for that in our Ontario tax budget, and our national corporations and our federal government gets the spectrum auction benefit, and the telcos get all the profit from that wireless radiation benefit. And then finally what we do is we use a third party, such as the Canadian Wireless Telecommunications Association, to do kind of the dirty work and be the buffer between our technology company and you, the public. So there's some handouts out there. They were invited here to be part of this panel. Surprise, they didn't show up, but there's an argument they don't need to because they're doing such a good job constipating the process, confusing government, confusing the science. They don't need to worry about us here in Niagara Falls. They got this thing nailed at Health Canada and Industry Canada, right? So I had to, I probably shouldn't do this, but I had to put some comments about some of the material you're going to see or read or get. Now there's a rest that you may have ignored it. Now you're going to go read it for sure. Go read this. Here's my observations. There's so many things I wanted to do. I had to use fine point on this thing. But the first claim I love, they claim that they are the recognized authority on wireless issues, developments, and trends in Canada. They are the industry's lobbying company, period, full stop. Even the Globe and Mail calls them the industry's main lobby group. So don't tell me you're the leading expert and blah, blah, blah. You're recognized by the people who pay you, not anybody else. They reference Health Canada. If there's anything you take away from this evening, here is Health Canada's statement on BPA. All right, so let me read it. I checked it today just to make sure it's right. Health Canada's food director has concluded that the current dietary exposure to BPA through food packaging uses is not expected to pose a health risk to the general population, including newborns and infants. So mom, grandma, granddad, dad, get that kid a BPA bottle and let them just drink their brains out. That's okay. There's no proof. Right? Now, I also went to my site, on RF radiation. Health Canada says the Government of Canada has determined that the use of cell phones and cell sites is safe for individuals and society alike, provided that Canadian guidelines and standards are met. So, when you read that wireless technology stuff in the reference Health Canada, think about BPA. I didn't have time this afternoon. I was going to look about the thalidomide, urea formaldehyde, I could see what their comments were, but I didn't have time. Okay. Wireless Association claims that Safety Code 6 utilizes limits set for at least 50 times below any potential adverse health effects. We did an analysis 2 years ago now, and we found 200 studies, scientifically peer-reviewed published papers that show potential harm at non-heating levels, well below Safety Code 6 that show harm. 200 that we found, my little group of people who just went on the web and did some research. There's 200 that we found up until 2015, I think. 2016, January 2016. There's been at least that many more published since then. Okay, they quote Public Health Ontario. Safety Code 6 exposure limits are protective against effects produced through tissue heating, and they also claim research by Health Canada and international bodies, including the World Health Organization, has produced no substantial evidence of harmful effects from RF technologies used with existing safety standards. I think Dr. Sid did a pretty good job. The National Toxicology Program, $25 million study, said clear evidence of harm. That's the highest category they can go to. The Ramsey Institute replicated that on base stations and cell towers. There's harm. There are hundreds of peer-reviewed published studies that show harm that from RF radiation at levels below Safety Code 6. Health Canada makes that statement because they don't even have the software to evaluate it. We've asked Health Canada, they use this great weight of evidence argument. We use the weight of evidence. In other words, the weight of evidence that says there's harm, the weight of evidence says there's no harm. We say, terrific. What I've learned from experts such as Dr. Sears and Dr. Havas, then publish your weight of evidence guidelines and we can evaluate them. We've asked for 5 years now. Every year, please publish your weight of evidence analysis so we can review. We're still waiting for that to come out. Okay, I think we're there. Okay, so what should you do? I didn't put this on the slide. The first thing you need to do, and this is what Woody Allen said, show up. Right? As he said, 80% of life is showing up. I got the quote right? Tomorrow, we are going to present to your council. We have 10 minutes on the agenda to highlight these issues. The most impactful thing you can do tomorrow is show up at that council meeting. You don't have to make a big rally. And if you want to make a couple of signs, that's cool. But no, you don't even need to do that. Your presence in the room, will say more than anything else you can do in the next 6 months of your life. I promise you that. So how many people are there here? About 100, I guess, today, we're guessing? If 100 of you showed up tomorrow in the council on this topic, you would blow their minds. Because what that says is there's 100 people that are interested and concerned about this issue and you want to hear what they're going to do about it.
I want to blow their frequencies.
Pardon me?
I want to blow their frequencies.
You want to blow their frequencies? There you go. Never mind blowing their mind. Blow their frequencies. Get up to 5G level and just kind of smoke them right out there. Right? Okay, am I done? Okay, I'm just getting on. Okay, so that's a short-term thing to do. I am serious. Get a friend, go and spend. What time's the council meeting tomorrow? 5 o'clock tomorrow at Town Hall, City Hall. 5 o'clock. Show up tomorrow. Pardon me? No, you don't show up. Don't do anything. Don't do anything crazy. Just do what you're doing tonight. Just sit there and watch.
Is that the time you're presenting, or is it going to be at 9 o'clock?
I don't know. We don't know what time we're on the agenda, right? But you have to be there. So be there for 5 minutes. If it's too. Listen, I'm driving home after. So I'm here for the duration. So sit down and we'll. Pardon me?
You have 10 minutes according to the agenda.
We have. I'm not sure to say we have 10 minutes. We only need 10 minutes. We need 10 minutes. If we have 100 of you, we don't even need a minute. Trust me, right? Like I said, council's going to go, holy smokes. People are interested because they also do the math that every one of you represents anywhere from 10 to 20 or 30 of your neighbors. Okay, so what other things can you do? Congratulations for being here tonight. I feel like we're preaching to the choir. Continue to get educated. There's a lot of good sites, Environmental Health Trust, Prevent Cancer Now, C4ST.org. Just continue to read, look at videos, and get educated. There are safety tips on the back bench. There's 2 things to think about safety tips. First is, distance is your friend. The further away you can keep these devices, the less harm you will have.
The
second thing.
Inverse exponential.
Yes, we'll get to the jerk unit. So, the second thing is, in your home, while you are exposed to RF radiation all throughout your life, that you can control your home. Make your home a safe haven. So if you have a Wi-Fi router, put it on a timer so it's off when you go to sleep. Get rid of the portable phones and deck phones in your house. If you have a baby monitor, move the thing as far away from the baby as you possibly can. I can't find a North American baby monitor that can reference our work. So those are the things to do. Get the safe haven and protect yourself and your family when you're sleeping. Council meeting, I said, come tomorrow night, show your presence. We have some recommendations. We're going to ask the council to talk about creating a bylaw. Not tomorrow night, we can't ask for that, but down the road, don't allow any small cell antennas on property that's owned by the city. Let's start with that. Let's start with the bylaws and put a moratorium. Now, feds are going to come in and say you can't do that and all that, but what you do is let's constipate the telcos process. So they can't put a cell tower in and take 6 months to get through the approval process. And that's a very powerful tool. We've seen cell towers in other communities in Canada move when it was clear that the community was on board and they didn't want that in that position. They moved, and they actually, in a couple of cases, we negotiated with, one case Rogers and one case with Bell, to find a site for a large macro tower that was more accommodating to the citizens in the community. So it can be done, but you have to get your community on board and you have to get your council on board as well. There's a federal election campaign coming up. I was hoping to launch it today. I was late getting my web designer and developer on board. My fault, not his. It's going to be called Canadians Concerned About Wireless 5G, CCW 5G. 2 days from now, go to that site, and what we're asking you to do is send an email to your local candidate and say, will you sign up as a candidate concerned about wireless 5G and help C4SD update safety code 6 if you are elected? So I'm going to ask you to do that. Post date for 2 days, and hopefully we'll have our
Can you
website
say
set.
that again, please?
It's Canadians concerned about wireless 5G, so ccw5g.org. Okay, I'm out of question. I'm out of time. I think we're going to open it up to everybody. Or is it one?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank our panelists. So that's Dr. Magda Havas, Dr. Sears, and Frank Clegg. I do also want to acknowledge that our mayor was here a few minutes ago. He has left. So I do want to acknowledge that, and as Frank suggested, there are a few things that we can do, so if you could please work on that. Thank you so much for all of the valuable information, the thought-provoking things that we have to think about. What I'd like you to do, if you have questions, if you can come around this side, and we'll have you come and speak at this microphone, so we can get you on the live streaming as well. So if you have questions, please come over to this side.
I have a question regarding safety regarding the phones. Do you know the little cards we have to cover the credit card so they don't steal the information? Is something like that useful? Would that cover a phone?
You can get material that will shield the phone within the phone number. So the answer is no, but if you're going to have the phone on your body, just put it into airplane mode and make certain that all the other, the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi is turned off. And then it's not radiating, it's fine. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. Is there a motion at council tomorrow?
No, there's no exact. There are some asks, and it depends on.
What are you hoping to accomplish at council by presenting the candidates?
Mostly to educate council, and the ask might be mostly to educate council, and the ask might be to put a moratorium on city property, as Frank suggested. Look to where the antennas would be. So Meg will be there, and she does have a few asks, and we'll go through them and at that time and see.
I happened to be watching a video, and it was in England, and this couple was walking around videoing their visit. And all of a sudden, they started all these blackbirds started falling all around them. And when he's taking a picture of the video, I'm not sure how long it was. I have to go back and look at it again. But then he looked at the person that he was with, and their nose was bleeding. So one of four things happened. They lost control of the power on that thing. It wasn't measured, you have no idea, but it killed dead all those birds. And what was the effect of these people? They could have died 2 days later, who knows? But they put it on the website. It was either loss of control, it was done as a test, just to check randomly, which I don't put it past them. They could have been targeted, that couple could have been, pardon?
Speak into the mic.
That couple could have been targeted specifically because you could do that with these weapons, and you don't need to have a vehicle driving around with a controller. They could do it from anywhere. Either take care of a crowd in an area, or they could specifically target a person. They're carrying the phone with them. They could just kill that person the next day. They could die the next day getting their blood all coagulated. So I don't trust them at all with this technology. Who knows if the end result may be to get rid of all the people. That's what it looks like. They want to go to IA and so on. So the question I have is there a service that these associations have that we can borrow equipment? Or which piece of equipment would we buy for electromagnetic meter that we go and test area at different sites? And if an association, that would be a great suggestion that I could give, that you could get this equipment get the membership to join these things, to support them, and then have access to these. So if they want to go to a specific site, like I just think of that lady that had the bad electricity in her area, and you see that because you got all these towns, whatever you can do to help those people would be beautiful. Something. Or if you were going to suggest a meter, which meter would you recommend? You'd have to have a separate meter for each strength, like the 5G, 2G, 3G, 4G. You have to have a separate meter, or can you buy a good meter to measure all of them? Okay, that's a question, and that's a suggestion.
Okay, first of all, you mentioned the blackbirds falling out of the sky. The same thing happened in the Netherlands, in The Hague. They were doing testing of 5G, and in one of the parks, they were picking up about 300 birds that had died. And when they took them to a vet, there was nothing wrong with them, like they weren't infected.
Birds had died.
The birds were dying, they were just dropping out of the sky, and in the same location, there were 5 farms where the cows were going berserk. They were becoming incredibly aggressive. They were irritated by something, and they were doing 5G testing at the same time. So we think that's what contributed to it. Currently, the meters to measure 5G, the millimeter part of 5G, those meters cost close to $100,000, so they're not available. There are a number of companies now that are trying to make them at a more affordable price. They're not going to be around for a while yet. One of the meters I recommend is this one. It's called Acousticom 2, and it's something that you can get from Safe Living Technologies, which is www.slt.co. It's not .com, it's .co. SLT.co, and it's a radio frequency meter. It measures 2G, 3G, 4G. It won't go up to millimeter waves. The highest frequency is 8 gigahertz. So it'll measure Wi-Fi in schools, it'll measure your baby monitor, your cell phone, all the things apart from 5G. It'll measure those. And it gives you a color. You can see here it's got a color on it. It goes from green to red, and it also has a sound. So you can tell what some of the radiation is just by the sound that it produces. What Sheena is doing is she's getting libraries to loan them out to people. So she's asking libraries, people to either donate this to a library or have the libraries buy them and then loan them out like books. So people can take them home with a little info sheet, and they can borrow them for a week, measure their cell phone, their home, their car, whatever. So if you want to do something like that here in Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, the surrounding area, I think that would go a long way.
You sign your car vehicle registration with your pin slip. You just give it to them. How much are they worth?
And this is about $250, so it's relatively inexpensive. It's one of the better ones that's inexpensive that you can put in your purse. It doesn't radiate, so you can actually put it in your bra. It's a little bit big.
I am an acknowledged techno-peasant, and probably the only living Canadian over 3 who does not own a cell phone. I wanted to ask from your presentation, are you suggesting that when I go outside with this 5G and there are all these towers, that I am at risk just walking about?
Most definitely.
Well, am I at more risk by having a cell phone in my house and having where is the risk? Is it just because these rays are in the air, or is it because I'm using an instrument that is taking advantage of it?
Okay, there's 2 things. One is prolonged exposure. So the longer you're exposed to this radiation, the worse it is. So if you have a cell tower or a small antenna outside your home, you're going to be exposed 24/7. As long as you're at home, you're going to be exposed. And although they say that it doesn't penetrate through walls, there's a video by Verizon where they're testing the technology, and it's going through walls without a problem. It's going through trees without a problem, so it's penetrating into your home as well. So if you have a small cell in front of your home is going to be inundated with the radiation. And that's more dangerous than having a cell phone that you turn on for a few minutes a day, or, for perhaps slightly longer.
Well, if I have both, if I have those.
And it's
coming-
additive, it's cumulative.
It's additive.
Yeah,
So I can at least protect myself somewhat by not having all of these wireless devices.
correct, but if you're exposed 24/7, if you're exposed while you're sleeping in your bedroom, you're not gonna get a good night's sleep, your body's not gonna heal, and ultimately, people will develop symptoms of electrohypersensitivity and possibly cancer if they're weakened at night.
But at least the further I am away from these towers, the better off.
Correct.
You're gonna have one every 4 hours. Just wanted to get a good profile picture. First of all, thank you very much. I just want to let you know over the last 90 minutes, you guys have overwhelmed me with so much information. I'm actually having trouble processing that. And with that, I want to thank Lori, and I saw Carolyn, and I think Chris was here earlier today. My question is going to go to tomorrow, when you have 10 minutes to present the council. Lori, was the mayor and other council members invited to this session so that they could get an understanding of what they're going to talk about tomorrow? And if so, and they're not here, I think they've done a disservice to the community. So tomorrow when you're speaking, I'm not sure that I understand it all. I'm not sure that there isn't some good to this, but I can tell you that in 10 minutes, you're not going to get across what we just did here with 90 minutes. And many of us are going to go home tonight wondering, what the hell did they just say? Okay, so thank you very much, and good luck tomorrow.
Yes, we know we've got our, I just want to make a couple comments. I feel bad that we overwhelm you. There is an awful lot of material here. Dr. Havas referenced the 5G Summit. I think you can cherry pick some of those lectures. The websites I talked about, it's very well laid out. Like you can read the material, and it's laid out a lot more clearly. I do want to talk about tomorrow. I think Dr. Sears and I will be presenting. We know we only have 10 minutes. Our expectations are relatively moderate. All we can do tomorrow, I think, is to introduce this topic at a very high level and to show that there's a significant amount of evidence that shows that there's potential harm, and then ask for the opportunity to explore this further and encourage the council members to explore this further. Your presence tomorrow will help us show them that you're concerned about it, because their job is to represent you and your concerns and your interests. So if you're there saying, we're concerned, we invested 2 hours of our lives last night, councilors, we'd ask you to reciprocate and invest some of your time. That will help us, and our job is to highlight at a very high level a couple of the key reasons why the council should spend the time. Because it's not theoretically possible in 10 minutes or more to run a tutorial. It's not. I've been at it for 5 years and I learned this tonight. So we're not suggesting it. So I don't know if either one of the councilors want to make a comment, but do you want to
Council can make a motion to allow your presentation to go longer than 10 minutes. You'll never hit 90 minutes, but we can make a motion to make your presentation longer than 10 minutes. And we've seen developers stand up there and speak for 30 minutes on a 10-minute time limit. So it is a possibility that you can have more than 10 minutes. They can, but you get to the point where that's not going to be doable for us to get a motion through.
Well, that's fine. Well, then we'll be prepared. We'll certainly be prepared for the 10 minutes, and then we'll be prepared if there's an extended time. We'll have a list of things that we will go into.
Most important.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay. The other thing I've seen, I'll plant the seed with the councilors. I think the Q&A session can go as long as you want, right?
It
So
can. We're well aware of how to use that.
So you guys know how to do that better than we
Yes, we
do.
do.
So, you know, we'll answer any questions that you have.
I have two questions and maybe a comment. One is the 5G networks are being sold around the world. I mean, the idea behind it, by the notion that they're not dangerous. What you talked about is something that's been around for at least 5 years. The Wi-Fi we've got that are either low risk or under risk. When they talk about 5G as being the non-ionizable kind of energy, and they make a very big good point on that it's ionizable, the higher the energy, breaks bonds, dangerous. Non-ionizable, lower energy. And they're saying that's 5G. And the reason it's different is because we're going to have aerial everywhere. That's one question. But the other one is sort of even more interesting. The Chinese are trying to sell their 5G networks all over the world. A couple of countries, Canada being one of them, is hesitating. I think it's because of the technology. The Chinese have a slightly different technology. It's either better, less dangerous, but I'm not sure. We've got somebody here from the industry who should be able to say they're either the same or they're not. Okay. This is really a tremendous question. Our industries are at risk. If the Chinese actually have a better technology, not dangerous, then it behooves our government and our industries to say, no, we don't want 5G, Chinese 5G here in Canada. A good number of countries, Australia, even France now is saying we don't want Chinese 5G. And I'm curious about whether it's a technology thing, or it's a safety thing, or a bit of both.
You know, I know I'm disappointed. I can't comment on the Chinese 5G technology. I would not assume that because their guidelines in their countries are more protected, that their technology is any safer. 5G technology is 5G technology. I do know there are concerns about the Chinese government having inappropriate access to some data be cut through the Chinese technology. And I think that's certainly why some countries are not doing it. Regarding your comment about the ionized and non-ionized, I think Dr. Havas or Dr. Sears.
Certainly, X-rays and so on, we know will break bonds, and it's a very high energy kind of thing to actually sever a chemical bond. What I was talking about was microwave catalysis. So instead of actually chopping, what happens is this kind of radiation simply aligns molecules and shifts atoms so that we have chemical reactions without the bond actually being severed.
You probably have a different kinds of chemistry tech behind here. Yes, it starts out over here on one end, X-rays, high energy, and it goes all the way down to radio. And they sell the 5G as being radio wave kind of technology, non-ionizable.
That's correct.
Not
means
microwave. Microwave is somewhere in between. I mean, I saw your graph, and it's partly, it starts at microwave. You know, why I read the chemistry book is it's not microwave. If you're saying it's microwave, okay, I think this industry's misinformed us from the very beginning.
Oh, for sure. Oh, if you read the Wireless Technology Association material, there's two comments I'll make. The first one is, at no time or no place do they say this technology is safe. What they say is we meet federal guidelines. There is no statement that says this technology is safe. Full stop. I promise you it's not made. Their lawyers would never ever let them make that statement. The second thing is they're doing a very, very good job, and it's written very, very well, to suggest that this 5G technology is kind of like radio antenna waves.
Yes.
Right? Which is absolutely false. It's misleading, it's inappropriate, and it's a false statement. It may be in the non-ionizing sector, but it is right overlapping and very similar, and all the functions and the technology is very similar to and very close to the microwave frequency. It's certainly a lot closer to the microwave frequency from microwave ovens. In fact, Wi-Fi is microwave.